The studio now by Barrister Kelechi Anwu. He's a legal practitioner and a policy analyst. He joins me now to do some justice to that speech and other issues on the state of the nation. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Amadi.
It's good to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Happy Independence Day in arrears, I guess. We can say, the month is still for Nigeria and all the celebrants, including myself. So happy Independence Day to you again. So I'm sure you must have watched the speech yesterday when the president spoke to Nigerians at about 7 a.m. And also tried to explain some things that have been put in place to help, the people. What's your take on that speech in general? Were there any key takeaways for you?
Yes, there were a lot of key takeaways from the president's speech. They were normal, like every president's speech. Everybody in Nigeria knows October 1st and other celebrations, presidents address the nation. But in this situation, it is coming at a critical time when Nigerians are a little bit hopeless, and we have degrading situations. Nigerians are actually going through a lot. And this speech yesterday, it in a way, gave watered some issues that has been raised over time. Now, you recall that in the past few weeks, the labor union had threatened fire and brimstone over the nation and its economy and its workforce. And the president has thought it wise that his team and that of the labor has been in communication, and they needed to chart a way forward. And that by doing that, the president made some initiative, made some propositions, of which he announced on that speech. And he also talked about the tax regime, the tax committee, and a whole lot of that. So the speech was just like the normal presidential speech, but then we look forward to it being matched up with actions and then the implementation, and the way it whittles down the sufferings that have been experienced by the general masses.
Now, what did you make of the 25,000 naira allowance that was added on, where I believe the president believed it was some sort of middle ground? Instead of actually increasing the minimum wage, why not add an allowance which is only for a limited time, about 6 months? And I believe later on there was an announcement that it's 35,000 naira for let me be sure, treasury paid federal workers and so on. What do you make of that? Do you think that is something that helps?
Now, that's the problem. That is the problem. Other than, getting the root cure of something, we prescribe drugs that are good to its symptoms. Now, the problem is the persons who are affected are not only government workers. Private individuals like me and you still go to the market. We buy things at an exorbitant 3 times the price of what it was for. We still buy fuel very costly. We still see those who engage in public transport still find it very inconvenient transporting themselves from one place to another. So adding 25,000 or 35,000 to government workers, what about the private sector? What happens to the private sector?
Do you think
the bulk of Nigerian workforce is with the private sector?
So why do you think it never really comes into broad consideration when all of these issues are coming
now up? This is why the labor is not backing out, because you are treating the labor is not the only one affected. We have the TUC, we have the Nigerian Labour Congress. You look at it, it's all like, if there should be a strike action, it is not just only those in government, even those in private sectors, banks, and other related private sectors who have to close down. So the affected persons are not just government workers who form part of the labor union. Even the private workers are also part of the labor union. It does not only affect them. So these things should be general, other than prescribe drugs to the effect. Prescribe drug to the root cause of things. Let it get it knocked in the root. How do you do this? Look at how to get these prices down by returning back the fuel prices. The pump prices will do the magic. If we can get back the pump prices to what they were They will do the magic. Prices will definitely crash.
But is that even in the realm of possibility?
It is very much in the realm of possibility, because we've had this conversation on and on.
Wouldn't that be tantamount to bringing subsidy back?
From what we've had over the past few days, that is all over the internet, its subsidy is back already.
Yeah, but they say it is to maintain the price so it doesn't go any higher.
So when you maintain the price, is that not bringing back have you not brought back the subsidy? Now, why, since you're maintaining the price, when the subsidy was in place, we had fuel at 150 naira. When you took away subsidy, we had fuel at 500 to 600. When you brought back the fuel subsidy, we still had fuel at 600, 617. So what now is happening? I felt maybe now that the subsidy seems a little bit relaxed, is a little bit back, we should be having fuel at something like 300, or basically even go back to the 150 we previously had fuel before the announcement of 30th of May.
But the government says there's no money. You know that we're
so what money are they relaxing this fuel subsidy? What the fuel subsidy that they just relaxed few weeks back now? What effect has it done? If you're bringing back the fuel subsidy, we should also bring back that price of 150 naira per liter of fuel. So what is it? Is it robbing Peter to Pope? What is it what is the intricacies behind that bringing back, cushioning the, how do they put the English again? So the fuel prices doesn't go up. While at the point when we had fuel subsidy initially, we had fuel at 150. When they took it away, we had it at 600. Now when they brought it back again, we are still having it at 150. What changed? They need to come clean and tell us, if you're keeping the subsidy, revert it back to the 150 price it was. But if you're taking it, take it away. Not today you tell us you have subsidy, tomorrow you don't have the subsidy anymore. But the prices do not change. Market prices keep skyrocketing on daily basis.
All right. That is something to consider there. But I'm still on his speech. President Tinubu also spoke about widening the net for vulnerable households, adding about 15 million or thereabouts. What do you make of policies where the government tries to aid the people's suffering by giving them actual cash or stipends? You know, in the long run, do you think it works out?
That is the problem. The problem is that, one, we do not have the statistics of people who are even poor. We do not have the numbers.
Even the government?
The government, do they have it? Have they used it before? Can there, anybody, anywhere, even the National Bureau of Statistics, can they come up and tell us this is the number, a definite number of persons who are poor in Abuja? Let's start with Abuja. Let's start with Kubwa, or even Gwarimpa, or Gwagwalada. Give us a specific number of poor people in Gwagwalada. Let's not go far. So, can you do that? Kabusa, let's even take it narrower to a very small village. Can you give us a specific number of poor people in Kadu? Is it possible? That is it. Not to talk of when you have a 36 state. You can't give us a particular village in FCT. FCT that is supposed to be at least automated, have that kind of statistics, but we do not even have it in a village inside the FCT. And then you talk about the whole of FCT, and then you expand it to 36 states plus the FCT. Do we have that number? Do we know the actual persons? You know, it is very easy to say we share palliative, but who are you sharing it to? At the end of the day, the palliative still reverts back to the pockets of persons who are not supposed to be entitled to the palliative. Now, we all know what happened to Shopee. We know what happens to Empower. We know what happens. These, at the end of the day, do not solve the problem. Now, other than, we cannot settle issues by technically avoiding them. What the government has done over the years is to technically avoid issues in trying to settle them. They have not actually done the root cause of matters and solve the problem at the root.
So does this now make it easier or harder for President Tinubu to focus on the right things? I say this because his wife, Senator Remi Tinubu, the other day said that her husband is not a magician and that he met a dire situation on ground. You know, so when you say tackling it directly or symptoms, one might wonder, you know, the worst things are getting. How can it really, you know, be solved now?
Nigerians do not need palliative. I say it with every sense of certainty. Nigerians need a working economy. Economy in the sense that the fuel price will go back to 150. They will be entering their public transport in peace and not be charged triple of what they were paying. They will be able to buy vegetable that were buying 50 naira, they now buy it at 300 naira. That is how many percent increase? So you look at it, that is exactly what you do not pay somebody 25,000 and expect the same person will still, you know, go through the hardship of spending the same 25,000 in a day. Now, why not cushion that effect by deepening those things into the economic drives, returning back those things that were there, you know, helping to cushion those things by making provisions for that thing that covers the generality of the masses, not individual households that do not have certainty of their numbers.
Well, that's fair enough. Before we move over or we continue the conversation, I'd just like to let our viewers know, and I'm here, Mr. Kelechi, of some breaking news here. The tribunal has sacked Governor Sule of Nasarawa and declared PDP winner. We'll just take a quick, a summary of what happened. The Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Lafia, Nasarawa State, has sacked Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State and declared David Obugadu, the candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party, as duly elected. In a ruling delivered on Monday, 2 of the justices agreed that the election was won by PDP, while 1 judge dissented. Governor Sule of the All Progressive Congress sought re-election for a second term but faced stiff opposition during the election. Mr. Sule polled a total of 347,209 votes to defeat his closest opponent, Mr. Obongadu, who secured 283,016 votes. I will bring you more details later. This makes it the second governor, I believe, so far to have been sacked by the tribunal after the Kano State governor was done likewise. But anyway, back to the conversation. I'm sure you might need some time to digest that if you want to discuss it later. After moving on from the president's speech now, or let me touch on one more issue. The president also spoke about CNG vehicles and all of that. What do you make of that idea, considering what is happening with gas at the moment? As the last time I checked, about a day or two ago, gas was about 950 to 1,000 naira per kilogram. Do you think it's heading to the point where the alternative that we are seeing will give us relief is now even worse or higher or the same as the current issue on ground?
It's not an alternative. It's not a beautiful alternative to start with. One is the risk that is associated with it if it is not properly handled. Again, it is not also cheap. Gas is not cheap. Now, if we are to go by gas, it needs to be cheap. And again, the production of this equipment, the things, will need to be sun certified. Not just sun certified, they need to be of quality. We do not need machines that will explode along the way. So if these things must be into place, it must be the top quality. And again, the gas must be cheap. At the present moment, we could see that the gas is higher than that of even the petrol that we are used to. So it's not convenient for either the poor masses or even the rich.
It's interesting because some gas marketers have actually blamed personal issues on the increase in prices. It is not as though the market has demanded it. They are saying that there's some sort of corruption or foul play going on in the downstream and so on and so forth. But now let's start to move into other issues. President TINUBU speech was loaded, and it's still causing controversy. But you spoke on the NLC, you touched on it a little before. I'd like to know what you think about their strategy. I've spoke to a lot of people on this matter, and there seems to be losing of that trust or confidence in the NLC. People say they are fighting for their own pockets and they don't care, and so on and so forth. But what do you make of their strategy? Do you think it is the best way to get the desired results?
At the moment, it is necessary. One, because we do not have a government that has refused or blatantly not looked at the plights of the masses. Now, the NLC are not just looking for themselves, they are looking for the entire general public, notwithstanding. Now, if NLC was there are sometimes I criticize NLC in their stand and in their unpreparedness. But at this stand, NLC is, if you remember the last offer that was made to NLC, that is the 25,000 and the 35,000, NLC have blatantly refused that offer, in the sense that it is not affecting, it is not going to the general masses. It's not something that the general masses will cushion the effect for the general masses. It's not affecting all members. All members are not government workers. So if at the end of the day you pay this money to the government workers, what about the private workers who are members of the NLC? What about the Trade Union Congress? What about even the general workers, the persons, the vulnerables in the society?
Just to cut in there, some persons wonder about the states, will I call it additions of the NLC. Whenever these negotiations are made, the resolution usually is for the federal. And people are wondering, why should states or state NLC or labor congresses still participate in strikes and protests when at the end of the day nobody is negotiating? Take for instance, if, as President TINUBU has said, for 6 months we're getting about 25 to 35,000 extra, who's going to start to negotiate with, say, a Governor Obaseki or a Governor Soludo? Who does that? Are those states NLCs those state labor congresses on their own?
No, they are not entirely on their own. The entire discussion still revolves around, if it is implemented at the federal, assuming it is implemented, they will still have to take it down to their state level, and if need be, lock their shops as it were. So, but at the moment, the NLC is rejecting every of those offers because it is not cutting across board. They need an offer that is inclusive, and needs an offer that takes care of all the members and not just those few picked out members. So in that state, it's a position that is going to cover both the NLC, the state levels, and even the TUC, both national and state level.
All right, fair enough. And let's dive into some other issues that have been making the rounds. Today, October 2nd, is the day that the court has ordered the release of President Bola Tinubu's academic record to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. The order was given by the United States District Court in the Northern District of Illinois, mandating the university to grant Atiku's appeal for the results. Legally speaking, what does this mean? If it is released and perhaps something is not as expected, what implication does it have?
It means a lot. It means a lot. It means if it is true, that means it is he is right by what he has submitted. But if there are discrepancies and things are not as it were, and there are confirmation that what was submitted wasn't from theirs, there is a right of submitting fresh evidence even at the Supreme Court. Now, don't also forget, the things that are alleged are crime. And under our electoral jurisprudence, the Supreme Court has ruled that time does not run on crime. If you have committed a crime within a specific actions of yours, and it relates to election, by reasons of the timeline within which to bring an action, it does not cover it, because these are crimes. This is an actual abuse of the constitutional provisions. So the constitution must be upheld, and such crime cannot go unpunished. Now, if you look at the court has done this in APP and Uchemosu, so you see they can still do it in this instant. So the other parties, if they get a hold of the evidence which will be released and it's not in tandem with what was submitted, they still have a window to submit the fresh evidence at the court at the Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court will accept it.
Of course, it is at the discretion of the Supreme Court to accept or not to accept. But the Supreme Court has that window and discretion to either accept or reject it.
All right. I think the window is a bit slim. It should be about September 5th or
Yes.
October 5th.
Yes.
Well, we'll wait and see, what turns out. I mean, today we should be knowing what exactly is the issue. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on the president's, would I call it his defense, going as far as saying that the release of the document will cause harm or thereabouts.
Now, as we, from the judgment of the court in Illinois that we've seen, the court discountenanced such argument on the basis of the fact that they are not privileged information. They are not. We all know what privileged informations are.
Yeah.
The ones that you must keep and you must not release. Something like client informations, lawyer client information, doctor patient's information, information relating to debt and all that. Those are privileged information. Informations of investigations and testimonies that were given. Those are privileged information. Now, but these are not privileged information. These are public documents. In fact, these, as long as they are in the custody of public institutions, they are public documents and should be, and not forgetting that these persons are no longer private citizens. They are now public citizens.
Well, but if that's the case, why this much, ruckus? Why wasn't it simply just released to Atiku Abubakar? Why do you need to drag them to court?
It means there is something there are more things that meet the eye. But that will be unfolded. I have not seen the document. It has not been released. So it is. There are much to be talked about in the document when they come out. But as at the moment, we've not really seen the document and what its contents are. So we need to see the documents and we'll be able to know if they are actually what was submitted at the INEC or not.
But it's enough to make a difference at the end of the day. It is
very enough to make a difference if they are actually not what was submitted. But if it means by adventure, if it is not what was submitted, that somebody lied under oath, it means there is a discrepancy.
All right, that's fair enough. When you break it down like that, we still have some other issues, including, the NFC one, we've already talked about it. So let's talk about a trending matter regarding a young woman who went to the hospital and after being attacked or being a victim of one chance operators and the syndicate and, wasn't given the care she needed and she passed away. I'd like to know, what does the law really say about this?
Now, it is very saddening when I heard that news of the young lady that died. It is very saddening. In fact, it is the worst inhumanity of man to man. There is no law in Nigeria, dead or alive, within this Federal Republic of Nigeria that prohibits anybody from being treated in that regard. Even at the moment, we have laws criminalizing anybody who refuses to treat any emergency situation. Now, let me tell you the background history. Before now, we used to have what we called Robbery and Firearms Special Provisions Act, Cap R11, Laws of the Federation 2004. Now, that Laws of the Federation, in section 4 sub 2, in that law, specifically provided that any persons who have injuries sustained from robberies and all that and gunshots must, as a matter of law, get a police report. Now, that was the case until 2014. In 2014, the then government of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, enacted the National Health Act in 2014. And under the National Health Act, Section 20 sub 1 provides that every health worker, every health institution, this health worker includes nurses, doctors, lab attendants, any health worker, every health worker shall, that act use shall, attend to every emergency situation, every emergency person, every person in emergency brought to your hospital. You must attend to them, and you must attend to them within a space of 2 hours. Now, that going down to section 20 sub 1 of that National Health Workers Act 2014, section 20 sub 2 says, where you fail to attend to this person, you shall be liable to a fine and years of imprisonment. Now, also, you look at the compulsory treatment and care of victims of gunshots, specifically of 2017, specifically provides that you must treat these persons without asking for police report. So how come people still refer to a repealed sections of the firearm special provisions, the robbery and firearm special provision? How come people still refer to that obnoxious and obliterate section 20, section 4 sub 2 of the robbery and firearm special provision, when all these laws, all these later laws, both the Health Act of 2014, the National Health Act of 2014, and the compulsory treatment of victims of gunshot of 2017, clearly criminalize anybody who refuses to treat such people. So why on earth will a hospital, a health practitioner who has taken the oath, that oath, yes, that hypocritical oath to save lives, what a human being, a fellow human being, die, not because the person does not have money, not because there are no drugs, but because of a flimsy excuse of, now let me bring it down. Each person who participated in that act is liable for murder. Every single person who participated, every person who refused, any person whose attention it was brought, including the security man who may have refused that lady entrance into, if there was any, a nurse who refuses to inject or treat her, a doctor who refuses to come and save life, the hospital management, they are all individually responsible for the death, the murder of that particular woman. Yes, because they are all accessory after the act.
So do you think that's what we need now? Perhaps for some sort of lesson to be made of those who are not...
Of course, this is the standing point of such medical rascality. If these persons are not taken care of at this point, at a particular point in time, we will keep having issues where persons are rejected. Why on earth with a hospital and a medical practitioner who has taken that oath of hypocritical oath to save life, reject a human life and watch that human life die? It is the highest inhuman treatment to human.
Yeah, you've made the point there, and I do hope, like I said, that examples begin to be made, because for some reason people still believe in outdated rules and laws and so on. But thank you so much for coming and for sharing your thoughts on this matter. We'll be hoping that the recommendations you made are taken seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's all we'll take on the program. We'll bring you some more special reports. We'll bring you on health, also bring you on security and also education. These are special reports to commemorate and to mark Nigeria's progress across different sectors as we mark our 63rd Independence Day. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's been a pleasure. See you tomorrow every weekday. The Polity reaches you live 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m.